On this episode of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino, some OU fans are mad about what media members are saying. We also talk about Stutsman, Bowman, and Jackson Arnold going to SEC Media Days. Then we break down Josh Pate's top 15 college football programs over the next 3-year rankings. And we finish with our winners and losers of the week. Please download and subscribe to the podcast, rate it 5 stars, and write us a good review. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search Oklahoma Breakdown on any of those, and you'll find us. All right, our man Michael Hosty will kick this thing off. It's time for the Oklahoma Breakdown. It's a beautiful Wednesday, July 10th, and you're listening to the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino. Riverwind is Oklahoma City's premier casino experience, and there are so many reasons why Riverwind is consistently voted OKC's #1 casino, but it all starts with their amazing variety of gaming thrills and excitement. Riverwind's beautiful, award-winning environment plays host to more than 2,800 of the latest electronic games with a huge selection of table games, including blackjack match roulette, and Teddy's favorite, craps. No matter what your game, Riverwind has it in spades and hearts. And to learn more about their gaming promotions and entertainment options in the month of July, all you got to do is visit riverwind.com. Riverwind Casino, simply the best. Ted Lehman, how we doing, sir?
Fantastic. Doing great. Off season, cruising along. We're getting into when it's media day time, means we're creeping ever closer.
Oh, we'll get to that, Mike Gundy. My goodness. We'll definitely hit that in winners and losers. But one order of business, we've got a couple advertising slots left for the season. If your business wants to advertise on the podcast during the season, you can email us at theoklahomabreakdown@gmail.com and we'll talk. We'll get you all the details, but if your business is interested in advertising on the pod, hit us up at theoklahomabreakdown@gmail.com. Ted, I would say the main thing this week for Oklahoma football is that the fan base seems to be very angry on the internet right now. And understandably so. There are media members out there saying things about Oklahoma that, let's just be real, we all don't like. A lot of us, we don't feel like Oklahoma is getting the respect that we deserve with what we've done as a program, with just how much tradition there is, what Venables is doing when it comes to building the roster, the excitement that we have for this year's team. Well, we know where the question marks on the team are. We're fully aware of that because this fan base is dialed in, man. We feel like people are disrespecting the team. And a lot of people have my man Barrett Salee in their sights, in their crosshairs. And I get it. I have known Barrett for a long time. We've done a lot of radio together. He says what he thinks. And I can tell you without a doubt, he is not saying that stuff for clicks. He truly believes it. He thinks OU's coming to the SEC and they're going to take it on the chin. He really believes that. And Ted is I don't know if disrespect's the best word, but is the issue with the fan base the disrespect OU is getting or the amount of respect that Texas is getting from a lot of media members? Or is it both?
I think it's both.
Yeah.
I think it's both. It is among the more frustrating things out there. Now, here's the deal. I know you've done radio with Barrett Salee. Like you get. I don't think I believe what you say that that's what he thinks is going to happen, and he's not saying it to rile people up. But there is a large section of people that get a ton of traffic on their social media when they say negative things about Oklahoma or leave Oklahoma out or say that they're going to be lucky to win 7 games, whatever it might be. It is, these people live online. It's how they generate their business, and it's how they generate engagement. They're not stupid. They know how to do it. Like take Andy Staples for example. He he knows what he's doing in this world, in this industry. He just put out like a blue blood list, I think, yesterday. And in the blue blood list, he lists like 15 teams. He's got like Penn State in, and then he's got like some like Oregon. If they win, they could become. It's like no, you just taught you have to bring all of the big fan bases in. He knows that those teams are not blue bloods. He knows the blue blood list hasn't changed in 50 years. It's the same. But you have to like bring all of those other people in to get engagement. It's how it works. And I there it's going to keep happening. And the more the more angry you get about it, and the more you engage with it, the more it's going to happen. And I think the tweet that you put out, I think maybe it was yesterday or last night. The only thing you could do, you will never change anyone's opinion in the comment section. The only way it changes is if our football team goes and wins big games in the SEC. That's it.
That's it. And I think it is, there is no doubt that if you say something negative about Oklahoma, you know you're going to get a lot of views. That's just the passion that we have that our fan base has. And this is one thing I've seen a lot of, and I get it. If you engage on that stuff, you just encourage them to do it more because they're getting views, they're getting comments, they're getting all of that stuff. But I kind of love that our fan base does that. I
Yeah.
I don't want our fan base to dial down the passion. Borderline anger, right? I don't want them to dial it down. I want them to be what we are, and that is just an extremely passionate fan base that is going to back up our football team if you say something negative about them. Now, what people may not realize, what some of Sooner Nation may not realize, is that there are a lot of SEC media members that truly believe OU's going in there and struggling. I have made connections doing SiriusXM, for the last 5 whatever years. I've gotten to meet a lot of SEC media members and develop relationships. And I know plenty of them that think OU is going to come in and compete at a high level and hold our own. But I can tell you there are a lot of them that think OU is going to go 4-4 in the SEC this year. That's what they truly believe. They're not trolling OU fans. They're not engagement farming. It's what they believe. And just going back to what you said, Ted, the only way Oklahoma football and this fan base, ourselves included, right? The only way OU football is going to get respect, the respect that we feel we deserve, the respect that we want among the people in the SEC, is to go win games. That's coaches getting players ready. That's coaches assembling, a hell of a roster and getting players ready to go. That's players going out and balling out on Saturdays. But there's also a fan component to it. And if you're a fan, all you can do is hold up your end of the bargain. You can't go out there and convert on 3rd and 6 on Saturday. You can't do that as a fan. That's not your role. One way we can earn respect in the SEC is by having a wild fan base. Not a disrespectful fan base, not a nasty fan base. I'm not saying we need to change who we are. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we got to make Gaylord Family Oklahoma Memorial Stadium a tough place to play. When opponents show up, when opposing fans show up, they need to walk out of there going, damn, man, I didn't know Oklahoma fans had it like that. And also, we got to travel. Ted, it's easy for us to say, we'll be at every game. We get a free ticket. We get a free ride. But that's how the fans can earn the respect that we want, is creating a wild atmosphere in Norman and also traveling in big numbers. so that when these opposing SEC fans are hosting games, then they're looking around going, damn, there is a lot of crimson here. I don't like this. That's all we can do as a fan base. The players ultimately, the players and coaches, they got to take care of the football component of things.
Yeah.
But as a fan, you can affect the game at home by making it a crazy atmosphere. And then I just think that it's important for us to travel really, really well, especially in this first season, so that these teams realize, like, okay, this fan base is legit. That I don't think we can do anything more than that as a fan base.
No, I think you're right. I think that's exactly right. You know, I do think it is important, though, to point out the genesis of this entire thing. It all started when Lincoln Riley left, and we go back if we need to. There's several people, bunch of personalities across the industry. Oklahoma's done. The program's finished. Never recover from losing Lincoln Riley. They're the next Nebraska or they're the next Maryland. Stupid crap like that. That's what started the whole thing. And I think you can boil it down to it's like it peels back the skin a little bit and you get to see behind the curtain. There's a lot of people that just flat out don't know what the hell they're talking about whenever they're talking about college football. And in regards to the SEC, I understand it in a sense that for example, I know a lot about Kansas State and Iowa State and Texas and Tech and Baylor and Oklahoma State. You've covered them nonstop. And then we're going to the SEC. It's like we don't know the history of those programs, like how they play, like typically, like what's the personality of their football team that you see kind of year in, year out. That's kind of what we're getting. Like they don't know us as well because they've been in that world. So, I mean, I understand it to a degree. I happen to think a lot of them are wrong, but like that's all going to play out. It's the SEC has been overly siloed because there hasn't been a reason to really look anywhere else. The champion's coming from this conference. We'll watch this conference and how it plays out. And then should we bump into a Big 12 team or a Pac-12 team, we'll learn about them whenever we get to the playoff. But as of right now, I mean, they've been so focused on the SEC. So I think that's kind of how everything is to the point of where it is right now. But I mean, to what you said, you make this the craziest fan base, the loudest fan base, the best place to play, the best road crowd that shows up and follows their team all across the region. Win the big games, and you'll get all the respect that you deserve and you crave.
And then maybe people start treating us like they're treating Texas.
It's interesting. Like that's been like a very frustrating point, but
Oh, for OU fans, that's by far
yes,
the most frustrating. Saying that we're going to struggle is one thing. Saying we're going to struggle and Texas is going to thrive when we have, it hasn't even been close over the last 20 years. Like we have dominated them. We dominated the conference that we were in together. It's just that
it's an absurd comparison between the two.
Like you line it up side by side and it's laughable. It just is. But recency bias is what it is. They just went to the playoff. Oh, but wait. Oh, you beat them. So that's where it's.
There's like, I feel there's slowly being like a change. I think the SEC folks are starting to realize that, hang on a second. We've been talking up Texas, but number one, starting to get annoyed with it. And number two, have they really been that bad? Like this is where the OU fan base online does their due diligence. They just pound the comment section with how much we have owned Texas over however long. And I think people are slowly starting to realize to some degree, but it's all going to come back to the field. No one cares what you've done in the past. What are you going to do this year?
Yeah. And as far as OU's argument when it comes to coming into the SEC and competing at the highest level, well, all these SEC media members that I talk to, they just point to the playoff games. Mm-hmm. And I don't really have much of a rebuttal. They point to LSU. They point to Bama. Even going back, they're like, you guys were lucky to be up the way you were on Georgia. I'm just like, get out of here with that. But it is that's what they point to. And it's hard to argue because every time OU has matched up in a big game with an SEC opponent, right, with a lot on the line, these last several, they haven't gone well. So it goes back to, I feel like the main point of this discussion for OU and Sooner Nation to get the respect that we want, to get the respect we feel we all deserve, got to go win games. That's it. That's it. You do that, and everything else will take care of itself. And it takes all of us, coaches, players, support staff, and it takes fans. So I don't know. I just feel like all of this stuff is just building to that Tennessee game, and that thing is going to be unhinged, man. I cannot wait.
It is. And it's frustrating as hell, but isn't it also, like, to me, it's a sign of what this season is going to be, because we've been sleepwalking as a program, haven't been challenged, picked to win the conference, almost every single year, except for when, Texas has a weird hype train going. No other fan bases, no media members really challenging us in the conference. It's invigorating to be in something else where you're challenged, you're not respected, you're looked down on. That's why I keep saying that our schedule this year is a blessing. It is not a curse. I think it is exactly what this whole situation, the fan base, the team, it's exactly what this program needed. It is an energy shot that's going to get us going.
Just wait. And Sooner Nation, prepare yourselves. OU's going to be 7th in the SEC preseason poll, maybe 8th. And the disrespect, it's only going to be added upon. That media poll is going to come out. I would assume it's going to come out before SEC Media Days next week. Mm-hmm. Just prepare yourself. OU's going to be 7th or 8th. They're going to be behind Georgia. They're going to be behind Bama. They're going to be behind Missouri. They're going to be behind Ole Miss. They're going to be behind Tennessee. They're going to be behind Texas, maybe behind A&M and LSU. I would say at the very highest, OU's going to be 6th in the preseason poll. We haven't felt with that. I can't even remember being picked that deep in a preseason poll. But it's going to happen. It is about to happen. That will happen next week.
And here's what's amazing about that is Oklahoma has out-recruited everyone in the conference except for Georgia and Alabama, or been like right on the level with Texas and LSU. Do you know how many coaches in this conference have won an SEC championship?
One. Kirby. Do you know how many coaches in this conference have been at their school longer than like 4 or 5 years? Kirby and Stoops. That's it. Everything else is like constant turnover. Why is it constant turnover? Because they haven't done shit.
None of them. It's just it's a constant churn. These programs have tried to get out of the shadow of Georgia and Alabama, and they have not been able to do it. Now, there's some of them that are in good position right now this year after coming off of strong seasons, and we'll see what they got. But like historically, and like not even you don't even have to go back. Like when you say historically, it gives like the feeling that I'm talking like over the last 50 years. I'm talking the last 5 or 4 or 3. None of these schools that are going to be picked ahead of us, except for Alabama and Georgia, have done anything. They've done nothing. None of them. So it's not like, oh, we got to come in and earn our stripes against teams that have accomplished jack squat. None of them have. So that's what I find fascinating about this deal. But it goes to show you it's a new conference about like if you don't get it done, it's just retread constantly.
Let's go back to the main point. Win games and everything will take care of itself, right? That's the number one way to have people talk about you the way that you want people talking about you. All right. One other thing. SEC Media Days next week. It was announced that Danny Stutsman, Billy Bowman, and Jackson Arnold will represent the Sooners at SEC Media Days, along with Brent Venables, of course. Ted, I can't imagine how happy you are. 2 defensive guys. You only can take 3, and 2 of them for defense. Did you almost cry when you saw this?
I like it. I mean, I think it's the perfect representation of your football team. Um, and it's like I feel like it's the first time in a while that it's the guys that you expect to go. Like, haven't we seen? Like, I'm trying to remember who's gone. Like the last couple of years, it's been kind of a random group that's been put together. But I love it. You know, you got 2 guys on your defense that are probably going to be national award finalists, and be on the maybe all conference list, which that's going to be you're going into a world where you make the SEC all conference list. That's big time. And Jackson Arnold, who I mean, kind of like what you said, the preseason poll with Oklahoma. Whenever where people start rating the quarterbacks of these teams in the conference, Jackson Arnold's, just because of not a bunch of experience, kind of his one start, he's going to be towards the bottom of the list to start the year.
I I think it's a really, really smart thing that Venables is sending Jackson Arnold. Dude, there's no doubt. You got guys that have played a lot more football at Oklahoma, guys that probably deserve to go. But everyone wants to hear from the quarterback. I think you avoid it would be a story if he wasn't going, right? And I think it's very intelligent Brent Venables and that staff to send him. And I bring this up a lot with the quarterback position, especially inexperienced guys. I want Jackson Arnold to be in as many pressure-filled situations as possible. That may sound ridiculous. This is just going and speaking to media members and doing interviews, but I think that all adds up to being comfortable with the position of playing quarterback at Oklahoma. I just like going and playing in a spring game with thousands of people watching you. I think feeling the pressure of all the lights and all the cameras, I just think that the more that Jackson Arnold can be exposed to those types of situations, the more comfortable he's going to be in them. And maybe I sound ridiculous. Maybe I'm reaching a little bit with that, but I just think feeling that pressure, feeling that stress, whatever you want to call it, I think that's good for Jackson Arnold and ultimately good for this football team.
Yeah. Well, and it's you kind of get both ends of it. You get the stress of it, but you also get the confidence of, dang, I'm here at this thing as a representative of my football team with, 2 senior big dogs on this squad. And I mean, it's like you get some confidence from that too, being the guy. The team's going to be behind you. So I totally agree with you. Perfect representation. Curious to see how big of a presence Stutzman's going to have there. Does he tiptoe into the thing or does he come in loud?
I I will be disappointed if it's not loud. And he's going to be preseason first team all SEC, right? We saw, the Walter Camp preseason list came out. First team for Stutzman.
Big
That's the
time.
big one, Ted. That's the one that you and I made. Now you got to make the postseason one,
Mhm.
right? They don't send you a plaque and invite you to the thing if you don't make the postseason one. But I think it's a good indicator of what people are feeling about him, what they think of him as a player entering the season. He was second team Walter Camp last year. First team, that is first team All American Walter Camp. That's the biggest honor in college football, other than the Heisman Trophy, really. And then of course, the individual national awards. But man, I want him to bring every ounce of the big personality. I want him to be the talk of SEC media days. I think that would be good for him. It'd be good for the program. I think the more people are talking about Danny Stutsman and Oklahoma and Oklahoma's defense, I think the more people that are talking about that, the better. Or at least that's my hope. I can't imagine he's going to go and just be on just a straight path of answering questions like a robot. I just can't see that happening.
He needs to pull up into the valet of the hotel in the white Camaro with the fur coat and shades, doesn't he?
Yeah.
That
Make a
would
big
be
splash, Stutzman. Come on.
make a splash. No, it's going to be wild. I mean, just like everything else that we've gone through so far. It's the first time where you got guys going to a media day and it, there you notice it. It's something like you're like, come on, you got to go represent well at this thing. When in the past, it's not even Big 12 media days is just kind of a check the box thing, really. I guess it's not anything to be too excited about, but this time it's going to be covered a little bit different.
There's no doubt. I just wonder what media member is going to ask Jackson Arnold about SEC Mike ranking him 10th in his preseason SEC quarterback rankings.
Yeah,
That'll be
it's
interesting to
fair
see how
though,
that question will come, and it'll be interesting to see how Jackson Arnold handles it. Now, he's started one bowl game, so
right?
you really can't say, "Hey, he belongs in the top 5." You can't say that, but it is interesting that a guy with that amount of talent that we're so excited about, you look at that list, 10th on SEC Mike's SEC QB list. I know that got a lot of people upset. Oh, you fans, we have so many things to be upset about right now.
Well, it, it it's hard to put him anywhere else though, honestly.
Right.
Because you've got a good group of returning starters that are coming back. And then like how do you fit him with some of the other guys you just haven't seen a whole lot? I mean, here it comes down to this. If our offensive line comes together, he'll be in the top and he can make the right decisions with the football, be smart with it, and do what his talent has shown that he's been able to do previously. He'll be right where he needs to be when it's all said and done. I think that I believe that we have a chance to have a top 3 defense and a top 3 offense in the conference, and that says something with this group.
I did do a bit of stats research once I saw that quarterbacks list
Mm-hmm.
because Brady Cook is number one,
Yeah,
Missouri's quarterback. And does anyone actually believe that Brady Cook's the best quarterback in the SEC?
no, I
Brady Cook 1, Jackson Dart 2, Carson Beck 3, who would be my number 1, undoubtedly.
agree. Same.
Quinn Ewers 4, Jalen Milrow 5. So I went and just looked at, and I know Missouri had a really good season last year. They got high expectations this year. I get it. Schedule's favorable. But Brady Cook completed 66% of his passes for 3,317 yards, 21 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He had 8 rushing touchdowns. But that guy's the best quarterback in the SEC. I find that very hard to believe.
Yeah, it's interesting. He he was a guy that really no one really talked about at all last year. They had the running back that they leaned on heavily, and then Luther Burden that they targeted for a bunch of big plays. But Brady Cook, I think was a beneficiary of having that. But it's hard to hold that against him. Hey,
Right.
he was a good, solid, efficient quarterback for him within their system. But like when you start looking at overall talent, and if all things were equal and you had all these guys behind the same offensive line with the same skill position guys, I don't think anyone would be picking Brady Cook number one. But you know, I'll see a lot more of him this year, and maybe I'll change my mind.
Jackson Dart over Carson Beck.
Well, tell me if you. I kind of think it's Carson Beck number one,
Yeah,
and then after
because
that, it's kind of like fill everything else in however you want. There's not a whole lot of difference between the other guys, in my opinion.
yeah, there's no, I don't think it's any secret that we are not as high on Quinn Ewers as a lot of people. But Jackson Dart's better than Quinn Ewers on this list. And I know that Dart's really mobile, and maybe I don't think it's probably not an accident that Cook and Dart, who are both really mobile guys, are at the top. But Carson Beck was 72% for almost 4,000 yards, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. And he's got the Georgia guys around him.
Mm-hmm.
I, I was just curious. I started going, diving in these stats, all these guys in the top five. And I just had to go remind myself Dylan Gabriel last year, and I know it was in the Big 12, was not in the SEC. 69%, 3,660 yards, 30 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 12 rushing touchdowns. And it got me thinking if Dylan Gabriel would have come back, the argument could be made that he would have been number one on this list because of his experience, because of the numbers he's put up. But it's funny because I think everyone thinks Jackson Arnold's got a much higher ceiling than Dylan Gabriel. But
I do.
he's just got to go out there and do it.
He's got to go do it. That's what I'm saying. It's like there's no one on this list that I think has like a better set of tools than what Jackson Arnold has. I think he's right there as capable as everyone else. He's got good size. He's an excellent athlete. He throws a great ball. He throws an excellent deep ball. He's a talented runner. I mean, you could probably hand select uh, traits from this entire list from guys that, well, Milroe's a better athlete. Maybe Dart is faster. I don't know how you would do it, but his total list of traits stacks up with it's better, as good or better than anyone on this list. So it's just, can he go out and execute it? Which is the thing. That's like the one thing. There's been so many guys play quarterback in college football that have been 5-star, highly recruited guys that it just never happens. It never works for a million different reasons, but you just never know how all of the talent is going to translate to the field. And that's the thing with Jackson Arnold. I don't have a problem with where he's ranked on the list. I think it's fair, but I I'm hopeful he's in the top three, and I think he should be in the top three by the end of the season.
I hope you're right. Josh Pate put out a very interesting list. OU's on it. But first, Love's Travel Stops is now offering a nationwide 10-cent per gallon discount on gas and auto diesel. Just download the Love's Connect app and scan your barcode at the prompt on screen and watch that price drop 10 cents per gallon. Across the country, the Love's Connect app unlocks exclusive deals and can help any traveler plan their route or meal on the highway. So before you hit the road, be sure to download the Love's Connect app to save 10 cents per gallon and experience the country's best highway hospitality at Love's Travel Stops. Love's also has you covered if you forget your phone charger or headphones with their expanded mobile to go zone. And of course, don't forget to grab yourself some of that delicious Java Amore.
And celebrate with a Schooner All-American Ale, the official craft beer of OU Athletics from Coop Ale Works. Named after the iconic Sooner schooner that races across home field after an OU score, you can join in on the celebration with an ice-cold beer from Coop Ale Works. You can enjoy it at the Palace on the Prairie, at OU athletic events, at the bar, at the tailgate, and in the comfort of your own home. For more information on Schooner All-American Ale, visit schoonerale.com. Must be 21 to purchase. Please drink responsibly. Schooner All-American Ale, the taste of game day.
And we are brought to you by Simple Modern, the Oklahoma-owned drinkware company and #1 drinkware sales leader on Amazon and Target. Can you believe it is already time to start thinking about going back to school? Simple Modern has everything you need to get your kiddos ready for the first day. Think of every character your kiddo loves on everything they need, like backpacks, lunchboxes, and water bottles. With just a few clicks at simplemodern.com, you can be back to school ready. And with 10% of all profits going to charity, many right here in Oklahoma, you know you're helping others too. That's a win-win. That's Simple Modern. Check their amazing products out today at simplemodern.com. Our buddy Josh Pate put out a very interesting list. And God bless you, Josh Pate, for putting this out in July. This is what we need, Pate. Proud of you, man. He put out his top 15 college football programs over the next 3 years. So before we dive into the list, this is how he kind of defined a program. He said it's a rolling multi-year blend of your on-field record, so your results, your recruiting and your portaling, so your talent acquisition. He also mentioned your player evaluation and player development, the resources your program has. I believe he said no poverty programs in the top 15. And he also mentioned the words synergy and culture. Here are the rankings. Georgia at 1, Bama at 2, Ohio State at 3, Oregon at 4, Texas at 5, Florida State at 6, Notre Dame at 7, Oklahoma checks in at number 8, followed by Michigan at 9, Texas A&M at 10, LSU at 11, Tennessee at 12, Miami Hurricanes at 13, Clemson at 14, and Penn State at 15. Ted, we could spend a lot of time on this list, man, but let's start here. What did you think about OU being at 8?
It's about what I expected. I don't agree with it, but
it feels like Pate is higher on OU than a lot of people, right? Just with kind of the conversation around OU right now going into the SEC, him having them as the 8th best program over the next 3 seasons. I feel like he's showing, I think he's showing more respect to what Oklahoma football is than several other people that cover the sport.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think you got to have Georgia 1. I think I would put Ohio State 2. I think I would put Oregon 3, and then I would put Alabama 4. And the reason, I know what I'm getting from Georgia. I know what I'm getting from Ohio State. I know what I'm getting from Oregon. I mean, Alabama, I think it's hard to DeBoer's going to do fine, I think. But I don't know if they stay where Alabama has been. I mean, that's an unknown to me. Over the next 3 years, I mean, that of the teams that I just listed, doesn't that kind of feel like the most unknown quantity going in? I mean,
I I have so many thoughts on this list because I'm trying not to get too caught up in the results of the last couple seasons because this is a projection
right.
ultimately. And that's why, Ted, it took me a while. I was staring at it. I was looking at that 3 next to Ohio State's name. I was looking at that 9 next to Michigan's name. And I was going, Michigan just won the national title. They have
Yeah.
beat the hell out of Ohio State, what, 3 years in a row. But then you come to the realization Jim Harbaugh's gone.
Yeah.
And he took a lot of that staff with him. And so I think that component right there, who's going to dominate the Big Ten, I think that component is the biggest uncertainty on this list for me. Like, there's no doubt Ryan Day has done a really nice job at Ohio State, except for against Michigan.
That's right.
I mean, he's done a really, really nice job. They're recruiting and portaling at an extremely high level. My initial thought on the list was Oregon's getting too much respect because is Oregon really a top 5 program in college football over the next 3 years? They're going into a new conference. They're not familiar with the teams at all. And Dan Lanning has not exactly won the big games. When there's been on a lot on the line for him over the last couple of years, that team has not won games. So I know that they're recruiting really well. I know that Phil Knight seems determined to win a national title. I get all that, and I'm sure that factored into Pate's thinking here. But that was one that stood out to me. And I guess you could say all the same things about OU. New conference, a lot of unknown, but yeah, just seeing Oregon there, it took me a minute, and I thought about it for a long time. I do not think Oregon has earned that. And I don't know what's going to happen with them in the Big Ten. Like, I
Yeah.
just don't know how that's all going to shake out for them. Like, is Oregon going to go in there and be the cream of the crop of that league? They're really talented, but I don't know, man. I just don't know.
Well, and that's the interesting thing though about like resources, synergy, and culture. Resources, I don't know that anyone is higher on that list than Oregon. Culture, Georgia's culture is set. Ohio State's is set. Like most of the other places on here are going to be developing that. I mean, that's a projection. Alabama has a winning culture, but they have a new head coach. Like there's going to be a new, a changed culture to some degree with that. And that goes for Oregon. You're developing it and fostering that. Texas, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Florida State, like all of those, you're just kind of gauging like how is that culture going to develop. And like I think that Oklahoma should be ahead of Notre Dame easily on the list. I think they should be ahead of Texas. Florida State is a little bit more difficult to project. I mean, that's a hard one for me.
Are are they going to be in the ACC for the next 3 years?
Yeah,
I,
it's
I don't know because if
wild.
they are, I think I'm not going to say they're a lock, but you feel really, really good about the way that Mike Norvell's been able to build that roster. Now they've relied on the transfer portal and they've been really good in it when it comes to identifying players and then those guys being difference makers for them. But if they're in the ACC for the next 3 seasons, it almost feels like they're close to a playoff lock each and every year. Which, if you're making the playoff, the 12-team playoff 3 years in a row, yeah, top 6 feels very
Yep.
reasonable. with everything that's kind of hanging over that program with possible conference realignment, if they end up in the SEC for 2 seasons, then I feel very differently about that program.
It's interesting. I'm not I'm not totally sold on Florida State yet. Whenever you look at, because Florida State, I think Norvell was a little earlier, but Oregon, Texas, even Notre Dame, Oklahoma's in there. I I'm not sure if Florida State didn't have all of the recipe and the right players at one time come together, kind of from his first time being there, the first couple of years, that all of that just kind of peaked at the right time. And now the big majority of those guys are gone. I don't know how much I trust that it's just going to, like, they're here to stay. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of the thing I'm wondering with Florida State. But the other thing on this list that I thought was interesting, if we're doing this same list preseason of last year, there's a team that is missing that would have guaranteed to have been in this top 15. You know who I'm talking about?
I'm guessing you're talking about USC.
That's right. Isn't that quite the fall in a couple years? Like, not in the top 15 for the next 3-year outlook. That's pretty wild.
I have to imagine that brought OU fans a lot of joy, not seeing the Trojans in this top 15. Maybe that took some of the sting of Texas being at 5 and OU being at 8 away. But in all seriousness, Lincoln Riley's reputation and the expectations for that program, it's pretty shocking of how it's changed in the last 2 seasons.
It's on life support.
If they don't have a good year this year, I assume his contract is all guaranteed.
Yeah.
That's my assumption. But if they don't have a decent first year in the Big Ten, and maybe he gets the 1 year to say, hey, we're in a new conference. We're adjusting to it. We gotta start recruiting different players, right? With how some of these other rosters are built. Like, maybe you get that 1 year, but if it's another 7-win season for him, that seat gets really hot. And I think because as the seat is going to get hotter, the conversation around him is going to get louder and louder.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see, but it is shocking that USC is nowhere to be found on this list for Pate. I mean, he's got Clemson on there. They don't even take transfers.
I know.
And they're on the list at 14. I mean, can you be a top 15 team when your coach won't take transfers and it probably prevents you from really competing for the national title? I don't know, but Clemson's on the list and USC is not.
And Miami's on the list.
5-7 and 7-6 under Mario Cristobal. That one was, Pate must know something I don't. I think he's been down there and visited the program. I think he's gotten a look at, how they're operating and what everything that's going on there. But
does that make him believe in it, or does that make him feel like obligated that he's got to put him on the list?
I think it probably makes him believe in it. And there's also, let's be real, it does feel like if Mario Cristobal can't make it work at Miami, if Mr. Miami can't make it work, who's going to?
I know.
Now he needs to make some better game management decisions.
Yeah. That's the thing, though, is like, how many times have we seen this cycle with Miami now? It's been going on for getting close to 20 years now.
When's the last time you were thinking about Miami football and you went, damn, man, they got a squad? I mean, it's been
20 years ago.
It's been a really long time.
20 years ago, man. They've had a couple of like one-off years, like every now and then, where you're like, okay, this could be it. But as far as like consistent, that's been one of the with the NIL era coming through, like that was one of the programs that you kind of pointed at and said, "Hey, if there's an avenue back, this is it." And it looked like that was going to be the case early on, but like you better nothing. Billionaires don't like throwing money at problems that just nothing happens. You better get some return on that investment pretty quick, or it's going to dry up. And they're probably getting close to that point.
Does it feel like the conversation around Notre Dame is as quiet as it's been in a long time? And Pate's
Yeah.
got him seventh on their list. And I think you and I both really like Marcus Freeman,
Yep.
but them being it's I feel like them being outside of these top two conferences now with the SEC and the Big Ten, I feel like the conversation around Notre Dame is as quiet as I can remember it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just strange. I haven't heard much about Notre Dame leading up to the season. It's more a conversation about these new teams that are heading into the Big Ten and the SEC and how they're going to fare and what's that is going to mean for their conferences and for the playoff picture. I don't know. It just feels like we haven't talked much about the Golden Domers. Maybe it's just us. I don't know.
No, I think that's right. And maybe that's a good thing. I kind of work in the shadows a little bit. I don't know, but they got a good quarterback now. That's been a big problem for them over the years. Thought it was going to work better last year than it did. Started off in a good way, but kind of fizzled. But I mean, if they can't do it with Riley Leonard, I mean, it's going to be hard to improve on quarterback from that guy. So if they're going to make a run at it, this kind of feels like it's going to be a good opportunity for them, doesn't it?
Yeah. I like Riley Leonard a lot. Now, we'll see how he's. Remember, he's rebounding from that injury,
Right.
from multiple injuries. We'll see how he looks physically to start the year. But anything else on the list really stand out to you? A&M at 10 clearly catches a lot of people's attention. Maybe Pate just thinks Mike Elko is a hell of a football coach and that change with the amount of because they still have a ton of talent on that roster, right? Maybe you think that change is going to be, a game changer for that program. I don't know. It's hard to believe.
They're putting together a good recruiting class. Um,
But they've put together good recruiting classes year after year.
that's true. I I'm inclined to believe more in Texas A&M today than I have at any other period. They've got a football coach there
Yeah.
now.
No,
They don't have a personality. They have a football coach, and that is that's what they need. And he's putting together a good recruiting class. They're going to have their defense is loaded with talent. I don't know how good they're going to be in year one of his system, but that defense is going to be something to deal with in the years coming. So we'll see. I don't mind them being on the list. It, it's interesting though that I think everyone on this list right now, almost looks like the top 15 in recruiting currently, except for Texas. It's weird that Texas is at least currently appears to be struggling in recruiting. And I thought coming off of their best season in a long time that this was going to be the year that they may knock it out of the park and compete for that top 1, 2, or 3 spot. But it's not coming together yet.
Texas at 5, Sooners at 8. I I guess one good year for Texas in which we beat them just somehow makes them a better program. Now, I've talked about it quite a bit on here. I really like Steve Sarkisian. I think he's a heck of a football coach. I am not worried about their recruiting personally because I think that if the high school class doesn't come together, Texas is a very attractive destination for transfers.
Yeah.
So you always got to remember that, and they've brought some really good players in via the portal. But and I understand all the positive momentum around Texas. Just went to the playoff. I think a big reason that people are so high on them is it looks like they've got their quarterback situation mapped out for the future with yours this year, and then what Arch Manning's going to do. And congrats to Arch in the video game. Nice. Congrats. I actually enjoyed the commercial. Eli Manning, 5 stars. No notes. Way to go, boys. But it's going to be a big test for Texas this year because they got to replace a lot. When you have that many draft picks, it's not, you're just not guaranteed to replace all those guys with guys that are at that same level. It can be difficult, but they've got the relatively easy schedule over the next 2 years, which I think factors into all this. But the question for me is 12-2 the new norm for Texas, or was last season the outlier? Because historically, 12-2 is an outlier for Texas football. They've got now 2 double-digit win seasons since 2010. Just so you know, OU has 11 in that period of time. So I get all the positivity around the program. I get Austin's a great city. I get that they've recruited at a really, really high level, but was last year an outlier, or is it the new norm? We'll find out.
Yeah. Yep. We will. We'll find out. I'm curious about that quarterback situation. We'll see how it plays out this year.
You've been trying to replace Ewers for not a full year, but maybe 6 months at this point.
I think it comes across that I don't think he's good, and that's not the case. I
You
just don't
don't think he's elite?
No, I don't think he's elite. I think he's good, but that's as far as I go with it.
I don't think SEC Mike thinks he's elite either because he's got him behind Brady Cook, Jackson, and Jackson Dart. Carson Beck's one thing. Carson Beck may be 1-1 in the 2025 draft. But
yeah,
Ewers behind Dart and Cook. You're not behind those 2 guys if you're an elite player.
No.
But hey,
No.
he's going to have every opportunity this season to show that he can sync his feet and his arm up and his eyes and put it all together.
Yeah. He's got he leaves the door open because of the injury history. Feels like he not a guarantee, but you feel like he's going to miss a game or 2 somewhere. And if he does, and Arch Manning comes in and performs well, they're going to have a possible situation on their hands. That's what I think is interesting. But no, you're going to be on this list, and you're going to be behind some of these teams until, other than Texas, until you go beat them, till you go beat Alabama, till you go beat Georgia, till you go make some waves in the new conference.
Any other thoughts?
I think that's it.
Shout out to Josh Pate. What a list. This is the stuff we need in the month of July. You're doing God's work, Pate. We salute you, sir.
Content creator.
That's why, hey, he says it all the time on his show, #1 college football show, digital media.
There you go.
Boy, Pate. Keep it rolling, man. All right, let's finish up with our winners and losers of the week. But first,
oh, you grill masters, listen up. Didier Ranch delivers premium quality beef that is 100% raised in Oklahoma right to your front door. Go to didierranch.com, DIDIER ranch.com to order one of their premium quality beef boxes and use promo code Oklahoma15 for 15% off your order. Filet, ribeye, New York strip, sirloin, steak burgers. They've got it all, and they ship anywhere in the continental U.S., and Oklahomans can get deliveries in just 1 to 2 days. The only thing better than having a lot of premium beef on the O and D line is having premium beef delivered right to your front door. Didier Ranch. Tradition tastes better.
and head to the garage for hand smashed patties, butter, toasted buns, and some ice cold beer. It's the perfect spot to watch any big game, and with all the garage locations being open to 10 p.m. or later every night, it's the go-to late night spot. Got the bison burger the other day, Ted. Just,
Yeah.
oh, so good. Visit eatatthegarage.com to find a location near you and order online from the garage in your neighborhood.
Attention business owners, you need Insurica in your life. Insurica is one of the country's largest insurance brokers with 30 offices throughout Oklahoma, Texas, and the Southwest. Insurica is able to customize programs by accessing the latest information from many insurance carriers. They compare and contrast coverage offerings and pricing in order to design a cost-effective, comprehensive program to meet your business's specific needs. If your business partners with Insurica, you'll save huge amounts of money and take back control of your total cost of risk. If your business wants to be best in class, connect with Insurica at insurica.com. That's INSURICA.com.
As always, Ted, kick us off. Who do you have as your winner of the week?
I just had to go with the Big 12. They've got media days going on. Yormark had some good comments, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this. You know, he's been saying that they're going to have to play around with some different television windows, and perhaps that's going to be playing on some different days. He mentioned how competitive they are and how deep the conference is going to be, which I kind of agree. I think you've got a bunch of very similar teams, but number one, the television window thing, and number two, is their depth going to be good for them or bad for them?
The first time I met Brett Yormark when he took over, I gave him this. I said, you can have it for free. I'm not going to charge a fee. The conference of competition. Now, with that in mind, because I think when you look at those rosters, the talent level of the rosters is going to be pretty dang close, basically across the board. And I think that is going to result in the Big 12 being the most competitive league in college football. And this is what I mean by competitive. I think if you line up all the conference games, the percentage of one score games in the Big 12 is going to be the highest.
Yep.
I think you're going to get a lot of close, exciting games. But I don't think, with the way that it looks right now and the way that it looks in the future, I don't think a Big 12 football team's winning a national championship ever again in this sport.
Yeah.
And that may sound dramatic. I believe that to my core. What, Oklahoma State's going to go win a national title? Utah going to go win a national title? Kansas State? I just don't think any of these teams are going to be capable of going and winning it all. So how big is the conversation going to be around that league? It's going to be really fun. Maybe the best way to phrase it is it's going to be the conference of competition, and it's going to be a conference that a lot of people are going to want to bet on because it's going to be really fun.
Yep.
And maybe Yormark leans into that.
Yeah. Well, they are having it in Vegas, Big 12 Media Days. You know, I think they're a second round conference. I think you can have a year where you got multiple playoff teams in the 12 team playoff. And I think they make for great first and second round games. Like a Utah against, I don't know, the second best SEC team.
Or like Utah plays, like Florida State hosts Utah.
Great football game.
Utah goes and could Utah go to Tallahassee and beat them? Would it shock me? No, wouldn't shock
Kansas State going to play Oregon in Oregon for a playoff game, right?
Right.
They can win those type of games. But once you get to those elite of the elite, it's going to be more and more difficult for them. But back to the depth, I think it's a coaching league, a bunch of great coaches that are perfect fits where they are and have a lot of tenure. How long has Matt Campbell been at Iowa State now?
Forever.
How long's Kleiman been at Kansas State now? Uh,
Well,
um,
Gundy's been, and we'll get to
Gundy,
Gundy. Gundy's my loser of the week. but
Gundy,
but
Utah, right?
Whittingham he may be the most tenured.
Right.
Like, he may be the only guy that's been longer in one place than Gundy.
Yeah. So you've got these set cultures and the way these teams play. I think there's a lot to love about that.
You know what this just reminded me of? Got to hit up our guy Neil Brown, get him on for his annual visit.
That's right.
Perfect man
That's
to have
right.
the conversation with. He'll shoot us straight like he always does. But I will always have. I'm always going to care about the Big 12 conference. Ted, I think I speak for both of us. Like, that was our conference. Our conference championship rings say Big 12 champions on them. So it's always going to have a special place in my heart. And I want that conference to succeed. I've got no problem saying I want Oklahoma State to succeed because I care about the state I live in. I want them to have success in the Big 12. But the Big 12 it feels like a second tier conference. And I know that Yormark said at Big 12 Media Days, like his goal is to make it the top conference in America. He won't, I believe he said he won't rest until it's the top conference in America. Well, Brett, you're never going to rest, man, because it's never getting there.
Right.
It's just not. But that doesn't mean that conference in football and in basketball, but in football, it doesn't mean that it's not going to be wildly entertaining. And we talk about it all the time. We just want to be entertained when we're watching football.
That's it.
I got no problem watching two teams that I know aren't capable of winning the national title. I got no problem watching those two teams play an awesome football game. And I
Yep.
think we're gonna get a lot of that in the Big 12. And I I hope that it thrives. It's not going to be the SEC, it's not going to be the Big 10, but I want to see the Big 12 succeed.
Totally agree. Totally agree. And I I think everyone doesn't have the same bar to for what is success. I think that if they have multiple teams in the playoff that are good, quality football teams, I think that counts as a successful year for them. And maybe you get a playoff win or two. I think that, I mean, their bar is different than what it's going to be in the SEC just because you have different tiered programs. But I don't know. I think the hire has been perfect for the Big 12 in Yormark.
Love it. Wish he would have been hired a couple years earlier.
Yeah.
Now,
Or are we happy he wasn't? I don't know.
I'll let you know in like 5 years.
All right.
I think that's a fair way of putting it. But yeah, the 16 team Big 12, I think it's to be a lot of fun this season. But do I think any of those teams can, look, you'll get a bye. You win the conference, you get a bye. Do I think those teams can then go through Ohio State, Georgia, and then Bama in a championship game? Hell no.
Right.
It's not no, it's hell no. So but that, once again, that doesn't mean it's not going to be really fun.
That's right.
Who do you have
Right.
as your loser of the week?
I had to go with EA Sports. And you mentioned the Arch Manning thing, and
You were
I agree.
suspiciously quiet when I mentioned that.
Yeah. Well, I agree. Awesome by Arch Manning. Smart of him to hold out. And rumor is 50, 60 grand that he got paid for that marketing push, the deal he did with Eli. He is going to be in the game after all. Smart for him. Incredibly stupid for EA Sports. Incredibly stupid. They allowed the precedent to be set where every top player coming back is going to hold out year over year to see what type of payday they're going to get. And maybe EA Sports is fine with that. And they're fine with shoveling out a bunch of money to who it looks like are going to be the most popular people coming back. I just think it's like there are, in my opinion, zero people that are now going to buy the game that weren't going to previously, that Arch Manning is in it. I just feel like they set themselves up for failure on this deal, but I could be wrong. Maybe it's what they had to do and it's the best way to go about it, but I feel like they opened the door for every top player in college football to negotiate on whether or not they're going to be in the game moving forward.
I and you mentioned that when he didn't opt in. I remember you talking about it, saying that you don't think EA should make a special deal with him.
Right.
I'm kind of torn on it because how many other guys are going to have two Hall of Fame quarterback uncles and be a quarterback? You know what I mean? Like it's such a special case. Like everyone wants to be associated with the Manning family right now with Omaha Productions. Like everyone's trying to get associated with Eli and with Peyton Manning and what they're doing. I just think it's such a unique circumstance that it doesn't really bother me because if another guy, and remember, Arch Manning hasn't played it down. He's done nothing for Texas football, but I just don't think there's going to be many situations at all where someone can go, I hold all the cards here. You do not, EA Sports.
Yeah. You may be right about that. It's very unique.
Like not
sure.
even Shadur Sanders did it. And maybe they did pay him more money. I don't know.
Well, nobody did it before they saw someone make what how many times more dollars than they did? A
Right.
100 times. Like now that they've seen that, maybe guys will not sign the paper or however they do
It,
that. I don't know. I feel like it's opened the door. Maybe there's not another circumstance like that where it comes across and it doesn't bite them. I just feel like it doesn't gain them anything, I don't think.
yeah, I just think that if you're EA Sports and you get in that conversation down the road, your first question is your uncle Peyton Manning? No? Oh, well, sorry. Here's our offer. Is your uncle Eli Manning? No. No. Is your granddad Arch Manning? No. Well, you're a great player. You won the Heisman last year, but here's our offer. Here you go. We'll put you on the cover. I don't know, but I did like the commercial. I thought the commercial was good.
Yeah.
Even
Well
worked
done.
the Omaha in there.
Well done. You got to when you got an opportunity. It's good.
I do wonder with yours. I mean, he's been banged up the last couple of years. I do wonder how much Arch Manning we're going to see this year.
No. That's the other thing about it. It's like he's hardly even played. I mean, it's so
Hardly even
it's
played. He hasn't played at all. Like he has
I
not played a
know.
meaningful down for Texas.
I know.
But he's a Manning, man. Once again,
But he's
everyone
man.
wants to be associated with Peyton and Eli.
It would have either been like, okay, he wasn't in the new 25 college football game and no one ever noticed and it totally is untalked about for the rest of eternity because he never made any waves in college football or the NFL. Or it's like the rare coin that has a mistake on it. It's like, wait a minute, you're telling me that this kid that was a Manning that was eventually won the Heisman Trophy, was the number one draft pick, wasn't in the college football game. It's like a collector's edition.
I I'm glad he's in the game. I enjoyed the commercial. Got no idea if he's going to play any significant snaps for Texas this season, but bottom line for me, he's a member of the Manning family. Like that's I I don't think we are marketing wizards over here, but and I don't want to go down the Bronny James rabbit hole, but I'm guessing EA Sports they were pretty calculated in how much they paid him and why they went about it the way that they did. I I that's just my guess. I don't know.
I think what they did is they simulated all Texas's games this year, and saw that when Oklahoma beat them like 55-17, and Ewers threw 3 picks, they knew that Arch Manning was going to come in the week after that and beat Georgia. That's what they knew. You got to have him in the game.
We got to have Arch for the bounce back. All right, let's get to my winner and loser. But first, y'all need to go to chubbyshorts.com right now, buy some of their awesome shorts, and use code BREAKDOWN for 20% off your order. I've been rocking their original stretch shorts. Good looking, super comfortable, stretchy, perfect length. It's hot right now, people. Need good shorts. Chubby's has got them. I go with the 7-inch inseam. But if you're a show some thigh kind of guy, they've got the 4-inch and the 5.5-inch as an option. Shorts are great. There's a reason they have put Chubby's on the map. Pair the original stretch shorts with Chubby's lineup of Friday shirts. You'll be cooking with gas with that look, ladies and gentlemen. From casual button-downs to retro-inspired prints, these shirts are built to kick back, chill out, or party down. Also, guys, you can never have too many swimsuits. Need to check out Chubby's classic lined swim collection. They've got tons of ultra-vibrant colors and patterns. They are built with a quick drying 4-way stretch fabric, elastic waistband, and anti-chafe mesh liner. And you got the little zipper pocket on the back. Always need that. And would you look at this? For a limited time, our friends at Chubby's are giving our listeners 20% off with the promo code BREAKDOWN at checkout at chubbyshorts.com. That's 20% off your order with promo code BREAKDOWN. Support our show and tell them we sent you. Don't just blend in with the crowd. Stand out with Chubby's.
3 things matter in banking: service, service, and service. First Fidelity Bank's commitment to exceptional service is more than a promise, it's their foundation. FFB has been by your side for over a century, and they're honored to be a part of your journey. Banking isn't about where you've been, it's about where you're headed. Open an account at an award-winning bank today at ffb.com. At First Fidelity Bank, we go where you go.
Look at these, Ted.
Ooh, we got some new stuff out.
New stuff from Opolis Clothing, opolisclothing.com. We've got our podcast merch and new vintage OU shirts with the disco logo.
Love it.
That's OPOLIS clothing.com and use promo code TED, TED for 10% off. Opolisclothing.com, promo code TED for 10% off. Buttery soft and 10% off. My winner of the week. We usually stick to sports on here. But dude, did you see the trailer for Gladiator II?
Yeah.
Oh my God, let's go. Gladiator is arguably my favorite movie of all time. Definitely in my top 3. Phenomenal film. I will be completely honest. I had no idea they were making a Gladiator 2.
I didn't either.
If it's not a kid's movie, it's really not on my radar. Right? But this trailer for Gladiator 2, first of all, I'm so excited that they're making a second one. And usually when the star of the first one is not in the second one, I am skeptical. But one way to ease my concerns is to put Denzel Washington in it.
There you go.
No Russell Crowe? Okay. Denzel. Whoa.
Ridley Scott directing. Good track record.
Pedro Pascal, I love that guy. Fantastic actor. He's hot right now. He's in it. They've got the naval battles going on in the Coliseum, which when you think about historically, it was crazy that they did that, but they did it.
Crazy.
But from what I could gather, and I didn't want to read any plot outlines or anything like that, it looks like Denzel Washington is leading like a rebellion against the Roman Empire, which dude, this thing looks awesome. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked by it. I didn't know it was coming out either. Trailer looks fantastic. Looks like it's well done. My only because the first one, and I know all the movies have special effects, but the first one, at least I didn't get the feeling from watching it that it was all green screen.
Right.
I
All
feel like,
CGI.
yeah, I feel like today there's so many like action movies that are all green screen, and I don't know, it just doesn't give the same feeling for whatever reason. I like it to be a little more raw, I guess, but uh, it looks awesome. I'm excited about it. I just watched the new Beverly Hills Cop, Axel Foley, uh, and it was good. I It wasn't great. It wasn't nearly as good as the first one, but it was good enough that I was entertained. And I guess it gets me back to where I'm feeling okay about the remakes.
It is my expectations are high now because that trailer was sweet.
It's good.
And I love Gladiator. I think a lot of guys out there love Gladiator.
How can you
November
not?
22nd. November 22nd can't come soon enough. Hopefully, OU will have just smacked around South Carolina. No offense, Shane. We love you, buddy. But hopefully, OU will have just smacked around South Carolina and they're getting ready to go smack around Ole Miss in Oxford. Maybe we should go. Maybe we should go see it the night before the game in Oxford.
I think that's a must.
Let's do it.
I wonder if that's what the team's doing. I
We
have
got
to
to go
sneak
if
a
they're
spot on
doing
the
it.
bus. Yeah.
Yeah, that ask PV. I'm gonna let you ask. I'm gonna let his favorite player ever ask. How about that? We'll try to we'll try to weasel our way into that one. That would be oh, I'm fired up. We don't talk a lot of movies on here, but everyone was talking about that trailer. So I am pumped. My loser of the week. Thought about going with people that hate Duke. Ted, did you see what the Cooper Flagg kid did at the Team USA scrimmage?
I did, and I've seen like his high school stuff coming up what feels like for years.
Yeah, because he's incredible.
Yeah, he is.
I so they bring in, if you haven't seen it, they bring in a select team to scrimmage Team USA to tune them up for the Olympics. And Cooper Flagg, who is 17 years old right now,
Jeez.
6'9", great athlete, can shoot it. I mean, he's hitting threes in Anthony Davis's face. He's hitting turnarounds over Drew Holiday.
Can
I mean,
handle the ball, run the floor.
he's the talk of the scrimmage, man. And it was incredibly impressive. And by the way, shout out to them letting people film that stuff and put it out on the internet. That's really cool that they
Yep.
let him do that.
Yep.
But this guy's going to play one season at Duke before he's probably going to be the number one pick of the 2025 draft. He seems very likable. I I don't know. Duke haters are going to be in a pickle, man. And Ted, I would put you in that category. So I don't
As a
know,
Duke
man.
hater,
You're more of a Kansas. You despise Kansas. I feel. Are
yes.
you kind of neutral on Duke?
I think I'm neutral.
Okay.
I think I'm neutral. I know that I think here's the thing. I think so many people hate Duke that I differ from that.
You're a counterculture guy.
I think in this instance I am.
When a couple years back everyone was saying meat's bad for you, everyone becoming vegans, you're like more meat.
Yeah, that's it.
And now,
That's
hey,
it.
now more meat's the thing, you know?
More meets the thing. More meets the thing.
That's funny. But yeah, Cooper Flagg, 2 G's. 2 G's on Flag.
Is he from like Maine or something?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
He went and played in a prep school, but he's from the state of Maine.
He was tearing up that Maine high school basketball scene that is legendary, I guess, right?
I
Had to
can
go
only
get
imagine what he
had to
was
get some
doing
better
in school
competition.
ball in Maine. But my loser of the week, Mike Gundy. We love him. We talk a lot about how great of a football coach we think he is, but Ted, it's never good when you go to media day and later that day you got to send the my intended point tweet. Never good, man. The quote was not great. I I think I know what he was trying to say. I think he was saying that people make mistakes all the time, just like Ollie Gordon made, who made a bad mistake drinking and driving the way that he did. But the way that the quote came out, Mike Gundy made it sound like he's gotten away with drinking and driving over the legal limit over 1,000 times in his life. That's how it sounded.
Right.
Not great. Not when you are answering a question about whether or not you're going to punish Ollie Gordon for getting the DUI, and your answer is, well, done it 1,000 times in my life. I just not good. And the fact that he even added, "Hey, it was just fine. I got lucky. People get lucky." It just, what was he going for? Help me understand.
I don't know. I think he was. I think he was trying to maybe downplay, like there's different levels of DUI, and
Oh,
according to
do you think it was probably only two, three, maybe four beers? Do you think that played well?
oh no, I mean it played horribly. But I honestly think that's what he was trying to do. Is he's like, I think he was trying to say, well, he was just barely over the legal limit. He wasn't like way over the limit. And there's like a difference there. And maybe he's right, but it's never going to be viewed that way,
No.
especially coming from him, from the head coach of a college football team. He 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 won the day up until that point. Like I loved the we're going to punish him by giving the ball 50 times in the first game. I thought all that stuff was great, but it's you gotta the last brushstroke of the painting, right? You got to know when to stop.
It's unfortunate for Ollie Gordon because he went to Big 12 Media Day. He faced music. He said all the right things. He took responsibility for a horrible decision. It felt like the story was going to be Ollie Gordon showed maturity. He showed up. He took responsibility for a bad mistake. He's not going to be suspended. We're moving on. And then this Gundy quote just like poured gasoline on it and made it this big story that now has this much longer life than I think it would have. And I don't know. It just, in a weird way, I felt bad for Ollie Gordon because this Gundy quote has brought so much more attention to the situation.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It was, you're about to really, they didn't even have to address it at all. They they could have not taken him down there. Gundy could have said, "We're just going to address that internally." Played him right out of the gate whenever the season started, and you would have had a handful of people mention it, and then you probably never would have heard anything about it again. And this is just going to drop it right back into the cycle.
I I thought it was the smart move taking him. And the reason why is something Ollie Gordon said. He said it would have been unfair, basically unfair for my teammates to have to answer these questions about me and my situation and what happened. So that's why I'm here. I'm here so that they don't have to answer those questions because that wouldn't be fair. I thought that was
Yeah.
I thought that was mature. I thought that was the right decision. But Gundy, what were you doing, man? We love you, man, but what was that? And I I continue to believe that these guys that are making money, like take an Uber, hire a driver, but there's also something that I experienced in the NFL. Because I'm tired of seeing these big time football players get DUIs when I believe it's avoidable. And while I don't think you can baby these guys and hold their hand through every little thing in life, I do think Ubers can be covered by the school for your players. Get a booster. to cover the team Uber tab or make it part of your budget or start a rideshare service company where players can schedule cars. That's what NFL teams do. When I played for the Tennessee Titans, if I took an Uber, I could forward my receipt to the player engagement guy. They reimbursed me in cash.
Hmm.
When I played for the Buffalo Bills, I had a specific code. Call this rideshare service, give them this code, your ride is free. Any day of the week, anytime. I and maybe you make a rule, hey, if it's after 5 p.m., or something like that. But I do
Here's how
think
old I am. The Lions had that, but no one used it because they were worried the team was like spying on who was going out and stuff.
I'm fine with that. And
But the
maybe,
reimbursement is different because the reimbursement is just you're sending in the receipt. There's, you know, they don't know when you used it. You crop the time out of the receipt, I guess. But I think that's the best way. That's good.
yeah. And it was because, they had some problems with some players getting DUIs. And they said, you know
At
what?
this point, who hasn't? You know.
Yeah, we can address this problem. So ultimately, I just think with what the sport is now, with how much money some of these guys are making, how much money is on the line for some of these guys. I just think if you're a program, hey, do everything you can to help them make the best decisions possible. And it's also, I feel like it's a intelligence test for the players. If you still choose to drink and drive when you get free Ubers or a ride or a car service, and you're still dumb enough to go and do that, see ya, man. It's an IQ test. Also, I just I don't know how it would all work, under NCAA rules. I don't care. I don't think anyone would say, you know what, that's a bad idea. Don't do that. We don't want these college football players to be able to take free Ubers. That's ridiculous. I'm just tired of seeing these big name players in college football or any of these college football players get DUIs when I do think I've experienced it firsthand that it is an avoidable situation if your organization is willing to work with you. Now, if you choose to make an idiotic decision when that stuff is available to you, then hey, man, see ya. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a thought that crossed my mind when this Gundy quote and this Ollie Gordon situation, when it just blew up the way that it did yesterday.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. News cycle. It's dropped it right back in and started the whole process over. But yeah, no, I'm with you. It's here's the idea. Like there has to be like a super high end Uber because part of the problem with what you're saying, and I agree with everything you're talking about. The reason guys don't use it though is because they want to pull up to the club in the G Wagon or the Lambo if you're at Texas or whatever it may be, and you got to come up with a an Uber of Italian sports cars or something
High end Uber cars to drop you
yeah,
off.
to drop you off and pick you up.
I don't think
You just park like right, campus corner, and you
just
swoop in, and then you just drop them off, and they get in a regular Uber around the corner.
yeah, just get a big fleet of black SUVs like you're the damn president rolling up or something. Like
There you
just
go.
I don't know, man. I just think you can avoid some of this stuff if these schools, these athletic programs are willing to, find the money for it. I don't know. We it's happened twice now here. Big time players in the state of Oklahoma. Both those guys are extremely lucky. Nothing really bad happened. And I just want to throw that idea out there before something really bad happens.
Nope, you're
So
right.
birthday shout outs. Happy 38th birthday to Michelle Crawford.
Happy 41st birthday to Oklahoma Smoke Show, Mandy Joe Wade.
Nice. And happy birthday to Mr. Wilson from Tuttle. On that note, episode 438 in the books. We'll have a new podcast that'll drop Sunday. Just a reminder, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hope you all have a great rest of your week. Have an awesome weekend. Until next time, we appreciate you for listening. Do what you always do, Oklahoma. Take care of each other.